Well, folks, with the Whitfield Report in its 5th season and me starting my 14th year of podcasting in 2021, I figured now would be as good a time as any to start a Patreon page for the podcast. And I know everyone these days has a Patreon page who is a podcaster, but let me tell you what you're going to get if you decide to join the Whitfield Report Patreon. At the $1 level, you'll simply be contributing. That'll simply be a way of saying thank you, and I appreciate it. But that's that. However, at the $3 level on up, you're going to be getting access to an exclusive podcast that I'm hoping to do weekly called the Savage Express Podcast. And on that podcast, exclusive to Patreon subscribers and supporters, I'll be covering music and movies and pop culture and personally and anecdotes in ways that I can't cover on YouTube or traditional podcast platforms. I'm hoping to do this every week. I might not, but it'll certainly be a longer form podcast for those types of topics if you're interested in that sort of thing. And I also might be re-releasing some episodes of the Whitfield Analysis, my old podcast. Re-releasing the back catalog, as it were, digging out some old video clips that I've had in archive for years and posting all of that exclusively to the Patreon site for you guys. It's going to be a good time, and there are a couple of different tiers you can join in at. I understand if you can't join the Patreon, but if you're able to financially support the show and you want to help out, joining the Patreon would be the best way to do that. So I encourage you to go to patreon.com/Whitfield Report and sign up on one of the tiers today. And again, folks, I want to thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And hopefully, I can look forward to your financial contribution, which I deeply appreciate as well. God bless, folks, and God, freedom, legacy in that order.
You're involved in a trauma cycle.
Give me a 9-inch dildo.
It's not even anything.
And right now, NASA figured out how to get the biggest dick in the world. Because they did it with magic.
Best thing to do with placenta.
Can I squirt out of it?
Maybe in 2 weeks I'll start seeing it, I'll freak out again. But right now I'm pretty close to
Squirting!
And if that makes me less entertaining to watch, I don't care either.
Do you hear me now? I'm gonna put this in my mouth. It's a dick. All about getting them dicks.
I don't care anymore at all.
I can't afford it. I gotta watch my pornos. It'd be nice to not have to watch your pornos. That was my such a squirt.
Look at that big dick squirting. Oh yeah, baby. And a giant dick with fire coming out of it.
It'd be nice to be the Jolly Green Giant, and they forced me to suck them off in a closet.
I was just a piece of meat for that dude.
BB, I need help. My fiance's mom's aunt passed from COVID, or how she told the hospital. She was elderly. As a result, though, she's worried and considers me. I don't care at all. That woman is a fucking retard. Once you understand that, everything makes sense.
Because it's about the dicks.
I have to go to the gay bar every day.
Quick, touch your asshole.
Must be nice.
It's like in a bar, it's like $5 per. People go out and have 8
Dicks.
not think twice about it. It's $40 plus, maybe $10 in tipping depending on how drunk you get. $50 could buy you 50
Dicks.
Guys, I used to be a drinker.
You think it's tough to rape a guy? You think it's tough to become sexually aroused by a guy and fuck a guy?
It might be nice. You can't for life. I don't have to squirt and I'm jerking off and
I'm obsessed with dicks.
I know what they're doing. I can hear the zipping from my end of the phone. Just zip.
Obsessed.
Just zip.
Obsessed.
Either they just got done jerking off or they're about to start. Like, I can hear the zips. It's like a sea of 1,000 zips. It's just like, must be,
It's squirting on a level that's tough to fathom.
Next, he's gonna make us put the dildo in our ass.
I'm gonna put you on the ground. I'm gonna fuck your asshole.
That's when you pivot. Right. Just walk away. Next. Be next.
Alrighty, welcome to this week's episode of the Gamma Hugbox. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, one of your hosts, joined here by E.Scorpio, and Apex Gamma is missing in action tonight, but hopefully he's okay. He might crash the party a bit later in typical Apex Gamma fashion. But regardless, we're happy to be here. Hello to Starshine in the YouTube chat.
Good evening, good evening.
And hey there, Scorpio.
So Apex is going to do what he does best then.
Probably.
Like crashing the party.
Well, what else do you expect from the Apex Gamma?
I don't expect very much at all, but what he does well. So
that is very true. So we've had it's been a quiet week. It's been too quiet. Nothing going on whatsoever.
You might want to rephrase that a bit.
Yeah. It's been hectic to say the least, and all this election stuff is already pretty tiresome.
Sure.
We've been hearing about it for roughly a year and a half, and usually after November everything dissipates, but nope, it's 2020, so things have to inevitably be dragged out, right? So
Well, that was the year that the Mayans predicted, no? That we were all going to die.
that was 2012, but maybe it's 2020.
Oh, I thought they had their math off or something. But yeah.
Maybe they were off by 8 or not. Maybe they were off by 8 years, though. Who knows?
I think they were off by 2 presidential terms.
Yeah. But anyway, the grifter verse has been pretty ripe for this type of thing. They're sparing no expense on the left or the right side of the grifter sphere to either say that Trump's either trying to prevent Biden from becoming president if you're on the left, and he's trying to stall this election, or if you're right wing, put a grifter. The Dems are trying to steal this election. So
absolutely, yeah.
Which as a conservative myself, I definitely think that maybe there is an effort to steal the election, but I think both parties try to do it in one sense or another, just because that's how politics is. But what I'm curious about is how have our favorite grifters, I know we were talking earlier, and apparently Vox had a stream up that is no longer available.
Right. Yep. It's I didn't get to catch it all. I was at work when it started, but I did catch the tail end, and it was a pep talk of sorts. He was telling them not to despair. He was telling his audience not to despair. He was telling them not to believe the mainstream media lies, the usual, the usual stuff. And he ended it with a an invitation to come visit him at his blog because that is where they do not allow despair. And you can hear all of you can hear Vox, or you could read Vox as he copy pastes uh, various other grifters and the latest 4chan posts on his blog. However, Sam, they said they don't allow despair there, but I remember quite clearly just the other day they were his dread ilk were despairing that Vox Populi may be going down. It may be his blog spot may be deleted, so they're preparing for a backup.
Oh no, the humanity.
Yeah, Vox finally got his own URL, and I believe it is. I have to double check, but I believe it was voxday.net. So yeah, it was actually. Let me verify that for you, but it's either voxday.net or voxpopuli.net. So yeah, so don't despair too much because he's still gonna have a web presence.
Thank heavens, because if there's anyone who knows what's going on, it's Vox Day, and you know the the dreaded ilk. They're the ones who I trust wholeheartedly with information about the world.
Well, Sam, here's the thing, and I know we haven't gone in depth the times that we've talked, but a lot of the stuff that Ted has been putting on his blog in the lead up to the election and also in his election result coverage, it's a lot of the Q nonsense. Now, like I said, we haven't talked much about it in the past. I know that you've said you don't put much stock in the Q thing, but it's like you sarcastically uh, alluded to. It's not he's not the very he's not a very reliable source for any type of uh, information on what's going on in current events.
Well, I'm still just trying to figure out what the heck QAnon is. You know, it's been around for it's been around since like 2017, and yet no one can really give a straight answer for what it is, other than some information gathering operation, I guess.
Yeah, I as far yeah, it's that's a good question because it's you can't really define what it is since nobody knows who it is or exactly where the information's coming from, other than just out of somebody's ass. But yeah, it's hard to find a something to compare it to anywhere else in the real world. Um, the closest I could come to is maybe Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy. But other than that, Sam, yeah, I don't. But that's the thing. If something that is as ridiculous, how familiar are you with the Q phenomenon?
I'm familiar enough to know that it's like a conspiracy theory thing, but that's about it. It's like one of those things where I never really got too much into it because I figured that if I would, I might go down that rabbit hole, and that's kind of always been my theory, that that's the trick almost with QAnon, is that people people get into QAnon trying to find out what QAnon is, and then they get sucked into it. I th- from my from what I can kind of understand, that's the grift with Q. But
Yeah, and it has taken on that form. It's a very and you'll find all kinds of articles and resources. I know there's several subreddits dedicated to this phenomenon, but it morphs quickly into a legitimate cult, one of these internet cults that we've talked about in the past. People, excuse me, people give up their families, they give up their livelihoods to follow this cult, and I'm not exaggerating at all. It has been very tragic in many cases, but yeah, it's like it's chasing some kind of fantasy. So that is the atmosphere we're dealing with, and you have, I guess you could call them third parties that latch on, and that's primarily where the grift comes. It's kind of it's a very odd thing to describe because given the anonymous nature of Q, how nobody knows who it is and nobody knows exactly where they're coming from, they can't really, such a person can't really grift for themselves, at least not that we know. So you have outsiders come in and use the Q drops, use the Q culture to grift on their own for themselves. You have Vox Day.
Right.
He's one of the ones. I mean, a lot of these people do it. There's a whole group of Q conspiracy pushers, and they have profited greatly from this this bizarre occurrence.
There are some people who I'm a little surprised got into QAnon. Like for example, first of all, I was kind of surprised because I guess at some point Jenna Jameson, the former porn star, went like right wing, and then I guess from what I've heard, she went QAnon at one point because that's like, I guess that's somewhat of a trendy thing to do if you're like a new, if you're like a new conservative, quote unquote.
Sure.
At least in 20, in 2019, 2020.
And that's another aspect that we've talked about in the past. Also, Sam, is whence do these conspiracies start, or who's putting them out there? Who's responsible? Because we've talked about as far as men like Owen Benjamin, men like Vox Day, things like Q. Are they there to make the right wing look kooky and kind of scare people away? Given that it's so easy for a newcomer to come in and fall into some of this craziness, it kind of makes you think, why is this happening? Who's putting it out there? And should it be, well, not that it shouldn't be listened to, because obviously it should not be listened to, but should people like you and I call it out for what it is? And that's kind of where we find ourselves right now.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is, I doubt it's going to go away, regardless of who actually ends up becoming president of the United States. That's the other thing is, we know that this is going to get resolved, but the grifters, as long as there's an internet, there will always be grifters.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I think we talked about this on Wednesday. You and I talked briefly during the day. Q is not going to go away, and it should, because we still don't know how this election's turning out. It's, at least I don't. I haven't heard any new information. But if Trump winds up not winning the election, in any rational person's mind, that should completely invalidate the Q conspiracy. However, I don't see it going anywhere. I see it picking up steam, and I see a lot of these other conspiracies also either coming back or also gaining speed. Because like you said, the grifters are not going to go anywhere. I know a lot of them have claimed that they're going to call it quits. Chief among them being Mike Cernovich and Scott Adams. They were both supposed to have either quit or take an indefinite hiatus due to the election, but they're still around. They're still going to be around as long as there's fools that are easily parted with their money. Men like that are going to be around, and it doesn't matter who the president is, if we're being honest.
What? Yeah, it's a real bummer that Scott Adams turned out to be a grifter because, as I mentioned, like I was actually a fan of, and I mean I still am a fan to a certain extent of the Dilbert, comic strip and the the Dilbert animated series. But
Oh, yeah,
man,
that's right. Yeah.
but there's no denying that you know when I would bring Scott Adams, before it was always he was always the Dilbert guy, right? But
Yeah.
now it's Scott Adams, the guy who drinks coffee, the Periscope coffee guy. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, and he wrote Dilbert too, and they're like, oh yeah, right, right. So it's almost like the legitimate thing that he became famous for, has ironically taken a backseat to his his grifts.
Exactly.
And what's even more interesting and kind of telling, and I actually posted this on the subreddit, is his character Dogbert, who's the egg-shaped dog, is kind of Scott's attempt to make fun of grifters and con men and how gullible
Sure.
people are.
Well,
So
and that could also be seen as maybe an expression of a side of himself that he didn't, he didn't show at that time, at least to our knowledge.
right, and I mean, I will give Boomer Scott credit where credit is due. If he's a self-aware grifter, at least that's I guess that's positive somewhat. Unlike Owen, who doesn't seem to understand that he's a grifter at all.
Well, it would be self-aware yet hidden, and I think that's a whole lot worse. If you know you're a piece of shit and you hide it from the world, but you continue being a piece of shit, that's very deceptive. Um, but I think, since you bring up Owen, I think that there is a part of him that knows he too is a piece of shit, and he might just be able to. Well, I don't know if hiding it better is the right thing to say, but he just comes off as too insane to be self-aware. But I think that he is to a degree. So we can't. I mean, obviously, we can't know what's in men's hearts. Uh, we can just judge them by their actions, and both of these assholes are pretty pretty worthy of scorn, in my opinion.
Definitely. So you posted a couple of clips. The first one that I have is Johnny Rotten talking about Trump. I started to watch this clip, but I didn't finish it. So this should be interesting. I'll go ahead and play it. And then, have you seen this or?
Yeah, I watched it the other day.
Okay.
I think when I had put it in the Discord, it had either come out that day or the previous day, so it should be relatively new. I think it's like a day after the election.
Yeah, it is a day after the election. So.
John Lydon, also known as Johnny Rotten, you voted for President Trump because you have the right to do that. You're a resident in LA. What is so appealing about President Trump, which lots of people over here find confusing?
Well, look, I'm working class English, right? It makes complete sense to me to vote for a person who actually talks about my kind of people. Now, the media in America, all of it, it's liberal-minded, it proclaims to be, but it's only really basically liberal with the truth. They toe the line of the Democrat Party by assumption that they know what's best. Yet they don't know nothing about, say, blue-collar workers, Latinos, African Americans, in or outside of large cities. It's assume the position.
I do want to pause here real quick and bring up the fact that Gavin McInnes is always bringing up Johnny Rotten constantly, which I kind of find funny.
Well, I guess I could see him as being an influence. As far as and he says it in this clip that he's a very conservative man. I suppose I guess as conservative as you can get in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he's already kind of said that, and we're 1 minute in, just about.
yeah, I think they're grilling him. Because obviously I can't hear what's going on, but I remember that he's. I think they started asking him incredulously about him voting for Trump.
Yeah,
So he's kind of on his defensive now, or he actually had it seemed like he had it prepared, some statement prepared, and he was giving him all he had.
yeah, that's what they're doing right now.
Democrat Party attitude. Now, Trump, he's not a politician, right? He's never claimed to be. How unusually, exceptionally wonderful is that for people like me, working class people? We're bored with your intellectual left-wing ideas. We can't take much more of you. You talk twaddle. Everything you do, you just miss the point of who the general population are.
But John Lydon, I was just going to say, what about his rudeness? What about his obnoxiousness?
Nothing for these people. Nothing. And this is why they now support him so loyally, because he's the only hope. Now, you could call him a narcissist, you could call him nasty, he could be many different things, this fella. But he's the only hope, because the system, as usual, is a SH system.
All right, John, let me jump in. What's it like for you in Los Angeles, which is obviously a very liberal city and a very liberal state? What is it like being you with these views surrounded by wokies?
Well, it's hell on earth, let me tell you, right? I've watched what the Democrats have done to California, let alone this entire West Coast, and it's utterly disgusting. I mean, if you want Chaz, Biden's your fella, right? That's it, plain and simple. They've shown nothing by way of...
So he's basically regurgitating like all the right-wing, kind of talking points about how if you if you want Chaz, vote for Biden and all of that.
Oh, sorry, Sam. Yeah, you're correct. And I'm interested. It's very interesting to hear you say that. What are you thinking about that? As you said, being a staunchly conservative man yourself.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm staunchly. I'm more of like I'm more of a conservative libertarian. Meaning that like I'm conservative on free speech and economics and that type of stuff. But like social, if you want to, if you're homosexual and you want to have like a civil union, I'm perfectly okay with that. I mean, I'm not I'm not like strict, on the religious right, which I think is another thing that like a lot of these, grifters like Vox and the Kurgan more specifically are trying to do with the whole, bringing back Catholicism and whatnot. But anyway, that's a whole nother grift. I mean, I don't know. Johnny Rotten could be genuine in his feeling. It feels like to me he's kind of repeating every single talking point that he I've heard before, right? That's kind of what I'm getting from this. What was your impression of this clip?
Well, since you did mention that, I did notice that it was, like I said, it was prepared. It was what he said was prepared. It was like he was reading off, talking like what you said. And the reason I put that clip in the show prep is I thought you might get a kick out of it. But no, you brought, like I said, what you said was very interesting, and I think we should expand on that because that's kind of the mission of the Gammas, I guess. It's not the official mission, but it's kind of something that I've taken on as part of all these shenanigans have unfolded. Is that I find that people take politics way too seriously. It's people. And I think I saw somebody in the chat saying that they're tired of this us versus them thing, and that's the point that I got to several years back. So I don't identify as a conservative, liberal, or anything like that. I tend to be much more independent, and to me, it makes more sense just to make fun of everybody on both sides than to take any of this stuff seriously. This is a good conservative, or this is a bad liberal, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense at all.
I mean, and look, I was kind of on my own road to grifterdom when I was, younger. I was really going hard on kind of, the far radical left and SJWs and everything like that. But when you start to color your neighbors or your friends, who might have different political opinions than you in that light, it starts to become a problem. And I've had the same thing happen to me where, like, people think that just because I voted for Trump, I'm, now suddenly, ultra right wing, right?
Sure.
It happens on, both sides to a certain extent. And my whole thing now, and perhaps it's because I've aged a bit, but I'm trying to, I don't want to say I'm trying to find what, what we have in common, because I think that's a little simplistic, but what I'm trying to do is, express the fact that I think people can have differing opinions and still get along well. The internet makes it seem like that's a hard thing to do, but it's not in the real world, as long as you're, smart about it.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And what we're looking at, since you brought up the SJWs, what we're looking at, the internet has created, especially since the 2006 election, but it's probably been building up over time, is, as you said, like, people are concerned about the stereotypical SJW type, but we've developed I guess a mirror image. we've seen the rise of the right wing SJW, and those are the ones that we tend to rail against over at the Gamma King subreddit. And they're just as bad, and they make things just as unbearable. And we can expound on that if we need to. I think you understand the type I'm talking about, though.
Yeah,
I'm talking about, yeah, I'm talking about, people, groups that we'd be familiar with, people like the Bears, people like the Vox Populi comment section. Um, and it seems to be mostly an internet phenomenon. It does spill out into the real world occasionally, as does the left wing SJW. I mean, we see, we've seen their horrible actions.
I mean,
But they have a head start at least.
yeah. And I will say this: I'm not naive enough to assume that you can get along with someone who is in Antifa or anything like that. But I think what often happens is Antifa goes out there, does something really heinous, and then someone like Baked Alaska and the RV6 crew, or Yoba or whatever he's calling himself, will then think that he needs to go out there and, retaliate in his own way or something like that. And it ends up digging a bigger grave than actually solving.
Well, that
anything.
could be true. That could be true, Sam, and that's actually what he was saying the last time I watched the RV Tards. Um, the last time I saw him specifically was when they were in Dallas, and yeah, he was talking about that. Oh, we're gonna people in the streets. The only thing that uh, tempers that, Sam, is that it's mostly a LARP, and it's on both sides. Because that's the big thing, and this is something we've been talking about a lot also in the various Gamma platforms, is the Civil War II LARP, because it's being called for on both sides. I've seen I've seen the idiots on the left saying the same thing, but it's since I watch the right wing grifters more often and their pay pigs, I notice it on the right more than I do on the left because I don't watch the left. So, um, but like I said, I know they're out there. I know both sides are itching for this war, but at the end of the day, it's always a LARP. No one is going to go to the streets. Nobody is going to fight. Nobody's going to draw guns on anybody. It's just internet uh, pretend time.
Yeah.
So I think that's the important thing to stress, is that yeah, you have things happening, but things are always happening as far as election fraud, because that, of course, that's what's big right now. As far as election fraud goes, election fraud is an American tradition. There's been election fraud in every presidential election going back to the beginning of this country. That's not going to change. It's not going to make a difference the day.
Yeah.
Whatever the results are going to be, it's going to be, and the American people are going to accept it and move on.
Hopefully. One thing that I do want to clarify on real quick is when I say I'm not a religious conservative, I definitely I am a Christian and I do have a religious faith, but I don't try and bring my religious values into the show because I don't think that's going to really add anything. Or I'm not trying to use my personal religious beliefs as part of my platform to promote myself.
Sure, yeah, I don't think I've ever noticed you bring up your. I just assumed you're irreligious.
No, no, I am. But I definitely prefer to, talk about that stuff more in private, like in Discord and whatnot. Just because I I've definitely noticed that getting preachy on air, doesn't really do anything, and that's kind of been one of my whole things with Owen is I feel like Owen is a little too new to his Christian faith to be, preaching anything
Oh, absolutely,
to
yeah.
other people, and then he claims that he isn't that religious, and then or that he's not the right one to talk about this, but then he'll say that the Trinity is gay or something like that. So, I just choose not to get into that at all.
Well, speaking of Owen Benjamin, did you see the latest? Um, and I'll drop a link if I need to. But he is relishing this election chaos whole hog, and he has now gone back to because let's remember his arc. He started out as a liberal Democrat. He voted for Hillary Clinton, and when he reinvented himself for the YouTube audience, he came out as a conservative Trump supporter. But now, and of course, it's been rocky over the years. He's had his share of shit talking Trump, but we're back to the point where he is, seems decidedly anti-Trump. I don't know. Oh, here it is. Let me put this. And this is a long. This is a long. And play the couple of the Hugbox channel. There we go. But yeah, it was pretty. He's back. The circle of grift is complete. He's back.
So he went full circle, just as Johnny Arcade predicted then. And apparently there's some arguing in the chat, I guess. Well, Johnny, I think you were the one that predicted that Owen would go, would like come around full circle, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yeah, I think from what I understand, Johnny, he now is a full liberal again. If I understand that correctly.
Kicked off YouTube under Obama. Nobody Donald Jamarcus Trump is one of the worst presidents we've ever had. I know that's going to rub people the wrong way, but like, now that I see how compliant he is to the fucking narrative of like, we're going to fight for Michigan. All right, Patriots, mount up. Now that I see what he's really a part of, I'm like, oh, so you don't think he should fight for the votes? It's a scam. Who got kicked off YouTube under Obama? How much money did Obama spend on nonsense? Did Obama shut down 1 million small businesses? Like, guys, millions of small businesses. Millions. I've never seen in my life a president so Democrat, so leftist, that he signed off on this giant fucking scam. Slaughter the orange cow. Dude, orange man bad. Orange man bad. All right, I got tears laughing. So, dude, Trump is a fucking loser, man. Orange man bad. He's been lined up for this role for so long. Right, it's a magic trick. Pushes back on Twitter and dude, he won't leave Twitter. He's like, all right, Patriots, they just put me in a 12-hour timeout. I mean, I'm a billionaire president of the United States. I could easily make my own. But we need to fight on their ground. What? That's insane. It's like so stupid. Okay, orange man bad. The vote drama is to cause conflict. It's just to take all your shit. It's to take your sovereignty, take your will, get your eyes off God. It's so dumb. Donald Trump is such a fag. He's such a pathetic fag, in my opinion. I'm not fucking leaving. Dude, why did you just spend I bet a lot of that care money was funded right now to do this script. So what, you're a liberal now? Oh, are you serious? All right, I'm just going to ban you. Or no, you're being funny, I think. Donald Trump is the biggest Democrat president we've ever had. Oh my God, I can't stop laughing. It's so true. Look at everything you can measure. Debt spending, check. He spent more. He increased in.
Anyway, I don't know if we need to see the whole clip, but the point of it is it seems like, Owen has come full circle. Like it or not. And yeah, Johnny, I am going to save this clip or download the video. So, you still there, Scorpio?
Hello?
Oh, you're back.
Yeah. I had a lot of trouble hearing you. I had to reconnect really quickly. Yeah, did you ask a question?
Yeah, I so I didn't play the whole clip, but that's
right.
But the part that I did definitely was intriguing to say the least. So yeah, he certainly has come full circle, it seems.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend playing the whole damn thing. But yeah, he's back and as you could see in that clip, the Bears took to it like a duck to water, man. I don't remember the things he was reading specifically, but something like, oh, he's been, Trump's been prepared for this role or something like that. But obviously crazy stuff, obviously conspiracy things. Who knows where? I mean, we were talking about Q earlier. The stuff that Owen and the Bears are into is like beyond Q crazy, So, I mean, they could be talking about any damn thing. But yeah, that's the way that the cult is going. The Owen cult is going. Um, it might rub some of them the wrong way to the point of where a lot of them drop off. I know we've been seeing a lot of drop offs lately, but yeah, the ones that it's very hard to understand, man. The ones that stick around. I mean, they're the type of people that'll seesaw back and forth to any opinion that's given to them to lap up.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the case.
So yeah, that's what's new and fresh in Bertaria. Is what do you think, man? What do you think? Where do you think he's gonna go with this?
I don't know, but I mean, is there an anti-own cult? Evil Eric asks. I mean, yeah, I guess. I guess there is. I mean,
and what would that be?
Well, I mean, if you really wanted to get serious about it, I guess some might consider the Gamma Secret Kings to be like an anti-grifter. You know, we could be like the anti-cult, I guess.
Oh man, that's wrong, Sam. You're banned. You're banned from the cult. I prefer a club. Why don't we just call it a club, a gentleman's club?
Yeah. A gentleman's club. That sounds quite spicy. So.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's crazy to watch. I don't know. If you have that other graphic? Did I put it in there? It's a meme, and it has I guess it's supposed to be Owen Benjamin holding a dog, and the dog is, I don't know, some kind of anti-Trump rhetoric or something, and it has the bears, the Trump bears in the background, all teary-eyed.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
That's probably an accurate depiction of what's going on right now.
Definitely. So breaking news, I guess, according to John Arcade, Will Chamberlain said we might get a revote in PA in Pennsylvania. So that would be interesting.
Wilt Chamberlain?
Yeah.
The basketball player?
No, he's a political commentator.
Oh, okay. Okay. I guess that makes more sense. Yeah, I don't know. Well, here's the thing, Sam. We still have to see. When is it? Isn't it on the 3rd, December 3rd? I know it's sometime in early December when the Electoral College actually verifies their vote. Isn't that going to have a big factor in what the outcome is?
Yeah, I think that's the case.
So I mean, yeah, this thing is still. I'm not sure how that would work as far as a redo in Pennsylvania. Is that something that is unprecedented? I don't think I've ever heard doing an election.
No, I've never heard them doing that either. But that certainly is interesting. Are you outside right now?
Yeah, I just came out to smoke a cigarette.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard.
Yeah, you hear?
I thought I heard the window.
Yeah, that's the damn freeway running through the barrio, man.
Interesting.
But That's my front yard.
So, you had a few other stories in non-related grifter news. I thought this was kind of humorous. You posted a story about Harrison Ford, I guess, paying tribute to Sean Connery.
Yes.
So I pulled that up from Screen Rant. Harrison Ford shares fun Indiana Jones story about Sean Connery. Harrison Ford has shared a fond memory of the late Sean Connery, recalling their time together while filming Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Harrison Ford has shared a fond memory of the late Sean Connery from their time working together on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, released in 1989. The film was believed to be the final installment in the acclaimed adventure franchise. At the time, it was a huge hit. Aside from its success at the box office and among critics, Last Crusade introduced audiences to Indiana Jones's father, a role that Connery took to with great skill. The Oscar-winning film arguably has one of the best plots of the entire franchise, and it was to the disappointment of many fans that Connery never returned as Professor Henry Jones in 2007's widely derided Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Connery passed away over the weekend at his home in the Bahamas, leaving behind a legacy of amazing work and no shortage of fans from multiple different age demographics. Largely known for his work as James Bond in the early years of that iconic franchise, Connery's efforts in The Last Crusade created a character who was the antithesis to Ford's rough and tumble Indiana Jones, allowing for the perfect blend of humor and pathos to find its way into the series. With tributes to Connery's brilliance still continuing to pour in from a wide variety of celebrities, it's always been great to hear from those who worked with the star. Ford has spoken about the passing of his Last Crusade co-star, revealing that there was plenty of fun to be had while the two were filming the beloved sequel. According to an official statement in Variety, Ford recalled driving a motorcycle with Connery in a sidecar along a bumpy, twisty mountain trail, and it might not sound like it was much fun for Connery, but Ford's fondness for the moment makes it clear that both enjoyed their time together. He was my father, not in life, but in India 3. You don't know pleasure until someone pays you to take Sean Connery for a ride in a sidecar of a Russian motorcycle bouncing along a bumpy, twisty mountain trail and getting to watch him squirm. God, we have fun. If he's in heaven, I hope they have golf courses. Rest in peace, dear friend. So, it basically goes on to summarize that scene that they were talking about. I thought that was a pretty good, tribute to Connery from Ford, if I do say so myself.
Yeah. It doesn't say if they were very close after the movie. I imagine they probably would have been. but yeah, I know you were a Bond fan. I thought you might get a kick out of seeing that. Um, Even though this is not talking about James Bond, but you can't talk about James Bond without talking about Sean Connery. So yeah, I know it was a
Well,
I know it was a big thing.
and I'm also a fan of Indiana Jones as well. So that's always a
Well,
good.
there you go. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it's not it's not the serious stuff that some people want to hear about. But yeah, it's just a fun little thing. I know you're a fan of movies. I know you're a fan of these men. So
I am at least of their work. I don't know if I'm a fan of them, as people, but definitely of their talent for sure.
yeah, and it's okay to separate those things. It's I here's where we can start talking serious again. I guess as much as I can. Um, I remember back now this mess that we're witnessing right now, as far as the election goes, it's very reminiscent of what happened in the 2000 election. And back then, it was very heated. That was when, excuse me, that was when Fox News was just kind of getting its stride. And we had, of course, uh, W wound up getting elected. And you had all these celebrities come out. Chief among them, Martin Sheen. Who else was it? Mike Farrell from MASH. Um, Bunch of idiots, the usual suspects, Tim Robbins, Susan Sarandon. They were big time against Bush. They were very vocal in their disdain for the man. I think they even got together a troop of people. I don't know what the hell they did. They toured the country or something, protesting the man in whatever fashion that they could. But I remember at that time, the Fox News pundits, O'Reilly was big shit back then. Hannity was still around back then, but it was the counter call. It was the beginning stages of the right wing SJW. As I said, we already had the SJWs in the form of these Hollywood stars and whatnot, but then he started to have the mirror image start to come up, where boycott these people, boycott them because they're against our guy Bush, and with hindsight being 2020, we can say now that hey, maybe it wasn't such a good idea to be so in love with George W. In any case, that's where it started. So let's boycott these people. Let's use their tactics against them. But and I felt for that back then. But I can tell you now, it was silly then, and it's silly now. If you like Harrison Ford is another liberal asshole as far as I can from what I've seen of him. But if you like the guy's work, if you like his movies, there's no problem with watching them. If that's what you like, don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yeah, and that's how I always try and judge art is based on the work.
Exactly, man. It's you don't have to feel bad about liking what you like. And this is a silly little story we're talking about. But these types of things, that's what I was talking about earlier, when people take things way too seriously. And it's like I said in your chat last week, I think it was. Life is too serious to take seriously.
Definitely.
And I know, yeah, I know. I've gotten to that point where I just will push buttons just to have fun, because I've seen a lot in my time, and I see where this is going. And we've talked about this. We talked about this Wednesday also. Politics and news is cyclical. Everything that's happening now has happened before, and it will happen again. There's no reason to get bent out of shape about it.
Yeah, well, it's just it's fear mongering on both sides.
Sure, it absolutely is fear mongering. But what do the people do with that? You either, and don't forget that anger is a byproduct of fear. Anger is a symptom of fear. To get angry and say, I'm going to take to the streets or I'm going to fight such and such is just another way of showing that you fell for the fear mongering. So I would implore everybody to keep a cool head, keep a smile on your face, and if you find that you are taking these things too seriously, well, maybe you should look into frivolous diversions. That's just my recommendation. Nobody has to listen to me.
I mean, I definitely think that you should take politics seriously, but if you let it control your life, that's when it becomes an issue.
Well, Sam, here's the thing. Our politicians don't take politics seriously, so why the hell should I?
That's very true. So I have a friend named Dictator Phil who wants to come on here. He might be jumping in here. I'm not sure, because this is Apex's server that we're in. I'm not sure if he'll be able to come on, but we'll certainly try to get him in here. So.
Oh yeah, can you send him a invite link?
I sent him an invite link to the VC. I'm not sure if it'll work.
Oh, I see.
So.
Oh, I see him. Okay, he's in the server now.
Oh,
there he is.
Pity I wasn't invited. What's up?
Hello.
What's up?
I've been waiting to do that frickin' Sean Connery impersonation all week.
That was pretty good, actually.
Thank you. You're the man now, dog. yeah, like it's such a shame that he died. Well, so Sam, was he your favorite Bond, or who's your favorite Bond? If not,
as I've gotten older, definitely yes. He's become my favorite. I grew up in the Brosnan.
Oh, jeez.
Although, if you look at my Discord profile picture, I have Timothy Dalton as my avatar on Discord.
Yeah. No, it's just like Sean. I mean, obviously, Sean Connery was definitely my favorite Bond. Just he had that because he was there was a pizzazz about him. Like there's a pizzazz of his way of doing the Bond. It felt like some of the ones that came after him were very like robotic-ish almost, but he had like the stylish way of doing Bond. Like it was. I don't know. I don't think they'll ever find anybody like that again.
Well, they haven't. But honestly, I don't think they should.
No.
So.
Well, I mean, I think they've run out. I think that how many Bonds did they come out with? Like 20 something. Like how many more Bonds can they possibly come up with? Like, eventually, you run out of ideas, right? I would imagine.
Well, they're still writing Bond novels, aren't they? So, I mean, I think they usually take the movies from the the book plots.
Yeah, but how much are you going to write? Like, how much are you really going to honestly write that's going to be like, oh, okay, I can buy that? It's like professional wrestling. Like, once you've seen professional wrestling after a few years, it's like, okay, all right, we kind of see what's going on with this bit. Like, oh,
Yeah,
he's turned heel or he's turned baby face. Like what? Like come on. It
well,
gets
you know, with
predictable after a while.
wrestling is just soap operas for men, and soap operas have been around for ages. So I don't think that people obviously love these genres, and I don't think they'll ever go out of style. I'm not sure.
No,
Now things are going to the internet,
well,
but
I mean, I could watch. Okay, so I could watch the old school Bonds. I mean, really, I could watch the old school Bonds over and over again, and I probably won't ever get bored. Like there's stuff those are the kind of movies that just they're stylistically they're just forever. Like I just I don't know. It feels like, you know, you dig into the storyline a little too much, and then it just kind of, I don't know. It just, I don't know. And then there's part of it is like there's other movies that have certain Bond-like characters that kind of have their own identities, and I felt like, I don't know. It was, to me, it's like making RoboCop, like the last RoboCop. Like you're trying to make the last RoboCop, but like iRobot kind of killed it for everybody. Like you know what I'm saying? Like yeah, I'm like I was looking at the fight scenes in the last RoboCop. I'm like, dude, this is iRobot. Like what the hell?
Yeah.
well, what do you think? Is that do you feel that way for all movies, or just in other words, do you prefer the older movies and you don't prefer newer ones, or do you still like new movies that come
I
out?
like new movies. I like new movies, but they have to be they have to be done right, and two, they got to have some sort of originality to them. Like there has to be an original feel to it. Like when you come up with when you've made 20 some odd movies of the same character, it's like, well, how are you going to make this original at all? Like, and that's part of it. Well, I mean, I feel like I felt like Pierce Brosnan was terrible. Like he was a terrible Bond. And then like Daniel Craig, he was better than Pierce Brosnan, but that wasn't really like a great accolade because he was terrible. Like, but he's still not as good as like the other Bonds before Pierce.
Well,
But he's still good, just not like that good. And they need to come up with better Bond. And honestly, they need to come up with better Bond girls too. Like that's a big one too, because I feel like it's like somebody that you want to come up with like a Bond girl that like you've almost as if you've never seen them before. Like I've seen like this next one, the Ana de Armas. I've seen her before. She was in a couple of other movies. The what is it? The last one was Sidney LaRue or something like that. She was on Blue is the Warmest Color or something like that. Like I've seen that one already. Like they need to come up with like if you're gonna come up with a cool Bond girl, come up with something that I've never like something that you never seen before that like gives her that identity. Like, oh, that's the Bond girl. Like I don't get that with any of these recent Bond girls.
well, I mean, I think the age of feminism has kind of killed, you know, that aspect to a certain point.
I don't know. I mean, like because women have their like because that's a big role, but it's like, but I think men deal with that too, because like if you like look at Twilight for example, like nobody's buying that Robert Pattinson is Batman, right? Like no, they're looking at Robert Pattinson and they're like, oh, that's the dude from Twilight, and they just put a bat suit on him, like.
Yeah, he's not bad, but he kind of seems like a Christian Bale.
It looks okay. Like if you've never seen other Batmans before, it looks kind of okay. But but no, but looking at that particular Batman preview, I was like, oh, I am not. I mean, it looks cool, but I'm like, I'm not feeling Robert Pattinson. It's
Yeah,
just a
Yeah,
Twilight thing. It's just a Twilight. It's just
I
fucking
feel that way
Batman.
too. I mean, with my the older kids, the ones that are already teenagers, they grew up with Twilight, right? That was big when they were, younger
Yeah.
kids. So they are very excited about this Robert Pattinson Batman. But I'm like you. I see that dude, and I just see that kind of faggy vampire, So I don't. It's hard for me to see a Batman out of him. But the interesting thing about the Batman cinematic universe is that it's kind of always a you have to see it. It's like my favorite Batman was Michael Keaton. Um, but back then everybody was like, oh, Michael Keaton, he's just that goofy comedian. He's not going to be a good Batman.
Well, I mean,
But
you're right. I mean, you're right in that, like, you got to see those movies, like the MCU and all, like because even like I didn't want. I looked at the Captain Marvel, or was it Captain? Yeah, Captain Marvel. I didn't want to see. I didn't want to see that fucking movie, but like I kind of had to, because there was storylines in that movie that played into the other MCU movies. So I had to so I kind of had to see it, even though I really didn't want to. Even though Brie Larson was fucking awful. So yeah, and I think this is kind of the same way, because they're trying to make the DCU kind of blend in with one another, like they did with like the MCU did. So I don't know.
well, that hasn't worked so well, has it? I mean, I haven't watched any of those movies. I think I said this on a previous Hugbox, but I haven't really watched recent movies. There was a point in my life where I just, you know what, I'm not going to watch movies anymore. So I haven't kept up with those. But I do know from reviews that it seems like the DC universe is kind of floundering, isn't it? Or am I wrong?
I mean, I think it kind of ended with the last Avengers. But yeah, like with Marvel, it was like Robert Downey Jr. was basically keeping a hold of everybody that's falling off a cliff. Like he was pretty much the only thing. He was one of the only things that made it really good. Well, I mean, Deadpool. But Deadpool really wasn't like It wasn't that like into the Marvel scene.
Yeah,
Not really.
I think Deadpool wasn't technically part of the MCU. It was something with like rights, and so they couldn't put him into the same universe technically, or something like that.
Yeah, but like, that was like that. That was one of my favorites. Like Deadpool was one of my favorites, and then like Iron Man was, like, Robert Downey Jr. played an awesome character, and like I don't know, I just didn't. None of the other characters really grabbed onto me. But the only reason that I paid money to go see him in the theaters was to see the storyline, like all the little bits of storylines that were in each of the movies that kind of blended into what would eventually be like the last like Avengers movies.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I'm torn with the Robert Pattinson. I'm like, ugh. I'm begrudgingly probably going to see the movie in theaters, but well, I mean, if theaters still exist,
Yeah,
if this country still fucking exists, fucking President Biden, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna hate saying that shit for 4 years.
Well, is it official? Is it?
I'm hoping. Look, I'm hoping to God it's not. I'm hoping to God it's not. I'm like, come on, I feel like there's a part of me that feels like Donald Trump is, there's something brewing. There's definitely something brewing with this election. Like, there's me. Like I know on InfoWars they were talking about some sort of sting, which is kind of out there, but I don't know. I think there's something. I think there's something in the works in terms of like investigations and stuff. Because it's obvious. I mean, it's blatant obvious that there was fraud. Like there was some sort of voter fraud. But it's going to be tough to, like, it on the surface. It seems like it's going to be tough to prove, but like, I don't know. Donald Trump, he has a way of just doing things, man. I'm hoping, and at the very least, even if Biden wins, right? Please start leaking some of that start declassifying some of that good shit. Like, I want to see some of the good shit get declassified, like the book of secrets from National Treasure. Just leak that shit on WikiLeaks. Pardon Julian Assange and just leak all of it on WikiLeaks.
Yeah, the alien stuff. That's first and foremost. Everybody's interested in that.
Yep. All the Area 51 secrets, just throw them all in there, and then just be like, deuces, I'm out.
And in that scenario, would you think Trump would be declassifying that before on the way out?
Oh yeah. There's no way. What, Biden ain't gonna declassify that shit. He is the swamp. Like, he is a card-carrying member of the swamp. Like, there's no way.
He is the classification.
Those secrets, a lot of those secrets are what tie people like together in that corruption. But Donald Trump probably doesn't give a fuck. He's rich and doesn't give a shit. He's like, fuck it. If they're gonna do me like this, okay, yeah. Good luck with everybody knowing your secrets now, motherfucker, and then just leak everything.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, for sure.
What are you thinking? Sam? I'm sure you probably already talked about it, but
I'm cautiously optimistic that Trump will win and pull this thing out, and if not, maybe it'll go to court. But I'm not really. I'm praying for the best, but I'm bracing myself for the worst too.
What there's some interesting shit with the software. Like, apparently there's like software that they were using that was like glitchy or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. I was reading about it. I'm like, I mean, it was just so. The problem with what, like, if they didn't drop 100,000+ votes, like, in the middle of the night, like, I don't think anybody would have thought any of it. No, I don't think anybody would have been any the wiser. Like, I just think it was so. It felt like the ballot drop felt like it was so egregious that, of course, it kind of garnered some attention. You almost want to be like, well, shit, couldn't they have found a slicker way of dropping that shit or something? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't be talking about this because you'll probably get kicked off Twitter
For sure.
and YouTube.
Yeah, who knows? Scorpio, how are you doing on time, sir?
What are you thinking, Sam? I go for another few more minutes.
Phil, do you have any other topics you want to bring up?
I mean, not. I mean, if we're probably going to be talking about some stuff tomorrow. Like, I mean,
yeah, tomorrow.
If there's anything pressing, I'm not pressing. I guess I don't know. I think tomorrow we're going to talk a lot about a lot of the election stuff that's going on, and I'll probably be doing more of my Sean Connery impersonations. Just whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, well, I think this might be a good place to call it, gentlemen. So, Scorpio, thanks for coming on, and people can find you on Reddit on the Gamma Secret Kings review channel, right?
Right.
Or are you still just uploading vids at E.Scorpio?
Yeah, all my shows go to my channel. But yeah, I'm on D Live under the same name and the Gamma Secret King subreddit. So yeah, people can. I'm around if people want to find me.
Yep. And Dictator Phil is part of Versa News Media and Real News, which I'll be on tomorrow as well. And I'm thinking, since Apex Gamma isn't going to be here tomorrow, I might just do a Versa crossover stream with those guys as the Whitfield Report. So
should be fun.
For sure.
All right. Thank y'all for having me. Later, Gators.
Alrighty.
All right, Phil. Good night.
And folks, thanks for tuning in to the Gamma Hugbox here tonight. I want to thank you for tuning in wherever you are, and until the GSK review comes on next week, I guess we will continue to bite ankles and take names. So thanks once again, Scorpio, for coming on, and thanks, chat, for tuning in, and have a good evening, folks.
Five months of full-blown. I'm doing videos on it. You're involved in a trauma cycle.